This video will probably be shorter than my previous video, given the fact that there's not really much to talk about when it comes to this topic. But I really wanted to talk about this because of an experience I had recently. Um, and I just want to say that it is okay to cry. It is okay to cry in front of family members, friends, your partner, or by yourself, whatever the case may be. It is okay to cry. And for a while, I didn't understand this. I was always told growing up that, crying as a man is a sign of weakness. Only pussies do it, or people that can't understand their emotions, or, whatever the case may be. But as I've gotten older, I've cried a lot. And I've cried in front of family members and friends, and I've cried just by myself. Truth be told, just last night I cried in front of my mom. Before recording this video, literally 40-50 minutes ago, I cried to myself because I was just overwhelmed with emotions. And it happens. I cried to my mom because I was overwhelmed with emotions. I was feeling sad and depressed. I cried 40 minutes ago because of a memory I had, and old me would have been angry at myself for crying in front of my mom and crying, on my bed or whatever. But, new me is happy that I do express this emotion by myself and in front of others, that I feel comfortable with doing so. And honestly, I feel like if I don't cry, then I would just bottle it in, and, later on, all my emotions will just explode, and then I'll be a terrible person. But it's okay to cry. It's okay to express your feelings in any way that you can or that you want. I often cry when I feel very emotional, or overwhelmed by emotions, like sad. Whenever I feel sad, sometimes I cry. Sometimes I cry looking at a photo, or having a certain memory, or listening to a certain song. There's a good handful of songs that if I listen to, I most definitely will cry. Um, and oftentimes when I'm alone in the shower, is when I cry the most, actually. I guess, just that's safety. I don't know. I feel safe when showering. I used to not, but, more recently I do. But, like I said, growing up, guys would always tell me that you can't cry, that you cannot be sad or, depressed or anything like that, that it's a sign of weakness in men if they cry. And the same people that told me that, I've seen them cry before, and I guess that kind of was the start of me realizing that that was all bullshit. But also being around the right type of people as well. If someone looks at you and makes fun of you because you're crying in front of them, then maybe that should tell you that they're not a good person. I'd much rather be around someone who can understand what I'm going through and why I'm crying, and willingly offer me, any help that they can give. I don't want to be around someone who's gonna laugh or tease me or call me a pussy or a wuss or anything like that. I'd much rather be around someone who will be next to me and not against me. And it's hard to find people like that, but it's not impossible. You know, I always thought that if I cried in front of my mom, she would think that I'm weak. If I cried in front of my sister or friends, they would call me weak or tease me or anything, but I've never had that happen. I've had the opposite happen. People offer help or, just being there. Um, and it's nice. It feels nice. So, it's okay to cry. It really is. And honestly, I wish I cried in front of, my mom sooner. Because she really helped me. Um, and I wish I was more open about my emotions. You think you're doing yourself a favor by ignoring these feelings or trying not to cry or, just bottling it up and not telling other people about it because you don't want that to become their problem, right? But honestly, it's a lot better when you talk to someone and you express how you feel. And whether that be through words or actions such as crying, you know, that's okay. I've had to record this video about 2 or 3 times because I felt myself wanting to cry. You know, talking about, to me, a heavy topic makes me emotional. And, I'm remembering things, events in my life and such that have made me cry in front of people or by myself. My final message is this: it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings that make you just want to bawl your eyes out. Don't ignore them. And it's okay to cry in front of people as well. If you're around someone and you cry in front of them and all they can do is make fun of you or tease you or whatever and not give you any reassurance or comfort, then maybe they're not a good person. So go ahead and cry, let out those emotions, and you will feel better. Every time I cry, I always feel better afterwards. I love you, and I hope you have a good day.